Dear learners, I welcome you all to this module on pruning of tea as part of the MOOC on capacity building of the tea growers. In the previous module, we have discussed in sufficient detail young tea management. In this module, we shall discuss the different aspects related to the pruning of tea. The young tender shoots of tea plant constitute the economic yield of the tea crop. Therefore, the tea plant is trained to form a low bush from early years to form a table for convenience for harvesting the young tender shoots for plucking. This has already been discussed in the previous module on young tea management. Mature tea bushes are then pruned at intervals to renovate the branch system for harvesting the maximum possible vegetative growth. Pruning is the most important cultural operation in commercial tea production and has influence on production and quality of the harvested crop. In this module, we shall discuss this important operation in detail. So, the main objectives of this module are to explain the need and purpose of pruning, to identify the different types of pruning and skiffing, to describe the methods of pruning and skiffing, and finally, to learn about pruning cycle. So let us first discuss what is meant by pruning and skiffing of tea. Tea plants under cultivation are kept low, forming a spreading bush with a flat plucking surface so that the young tender shoots can be harvested conveniently. Tea being a perennial plant, unless controlled artificially, its vegetative and reproductive phases proceed side by side, and the former continuously and the later according to the seasonal rhythm. For tea production, the practice of bush management is directed towards keeping the plant continuously in the vegetative phase so that more and more shoots can be harvested. This paramount purpose is achieved by pruning. The main purpose of pruning are as the following: to maintain a convenient height of the bush to facilitate plucking operation, to check the reproductive growth and maintain the bushes more or less in a vegetative phase, to stimulate the production of new set of vigorously growing leafy branches replacing the old unproductive branches, to remove the dead, diseased and defunct wood, pest-ridden branches for rejuvenating the bushes which have crossed the period of maximum productivity, to minimize the formation of muzzy shoots in the plucking table, and to maintain the quality of the made tea. Now, what is skiffing? Tea bushes are not pruned every year. In the present system of tea pruning in Northeast India, bushes are pruned every 2 to 4 years. However, it is still the usual practice to cut the bushes lightly at the end of the year. The light cut given to the bushes is known as skiffing. Introduction of skiffing has eliminated the necessity of pruning every year, which was done earlier. The objectives of skiffing are to obtain the early crop, to obtain more first flush, second flush and total crop, to thicken the pruning wood, and to improve the health of the bush. There are different types of pruning. The system of pruning vary with the stages of the life of a tea bush. These are formative pruning, maintenance pruning, and corrective pruning. Formative pruning is done to train the plants to form a low bush. The system of formative pruning has been described in the previous module on young tea management. The different types of maintenance and corrective pruning as based on the severity of the cuts adopted on the tea are described. So, we shall first look at light pruning. Light or top pruning is a maintenance pruning. It is a cut given 4 to 5 centimeter above the last prune level in order to remove the congested top hamper and to renew the shoot systems for more vigorous growth. The portion of the new wood left in the bush after the light prune is called stick. New shoots develop from the buds present in the sticks. While giving a light prune, it is to be noted that the pruning sticks are of optimum in thickness. If the thickness is not sufficient, pruning may have to be deferred. In plains, the pruning cut is given across a flat level parallel to the ground, but in sloping terrain, pruning parallel to the slope is more convenient and popular. Now, what is medium prune? The main purpose of medium pruning is to reduce the height of the bushes. When the height of the bush frame rises to an unmanageable height beyond 80 cm due to repeated light prune, it is cut back to a low height above the original frame forming prune. If the frame forming prune was given at 45 cm, then the medium prune can be given at any point above the height. Pruning is done followed by the removal of knots, diseased wood, etc., even from below the general pruning height. Removal of knots, unproductive woods, congestion of the bush frame and its sanitation, reduction of the proportion of unproductive wood are other objectives of medium pruning. Bushes must be tested for 6 to 8 weeks before carrying out the medium pruning to have an adequate reserve of carbohydrates in the roots. Normally, the reduction of bush height by medium pruning becomes necessary after every 15 to 20 years depending upon the original frame height and the pruning cycle followed. Now, what is heavy pruning and rejuvenating pruning? Heavy pruning, as practiced today in Northeast India, is done with the sole objectives of improving the yielding capacity of some old but reasonably good sections of tea to minimize the loss of crop during uprooting and replanting of the uneconomic sections. Heavy pruning is therefore a part of the package of practices aimed at renovating the sections of rundown tea and can be termed as rejuvenating pruning. Now we shall look at the different types of skiffs. Different forms of skiffings are practiced, which can be described as the following. First, we may refer to dip skiff. When dip skiff is done after a light prune, it is a cut given midway between the pruning and tipping levels. For instance, for the tea tipped at 20 centimeters, dip skiff is given at 10 centimeters above the previous pruning level. Dip skiff tea gives more total and earlier crop than light prune tea without adversely affecting the quality. It is also less susceptible than unpruned tea to the effects of drought and pest infections such as red spider. Then we shall look at medium skiff. The main objective of medium skiffing is to remove the congestion of the dead and unproductive twigs at the top, which is the removal of the so-called crow's feet. Medium skiff is a cut often given at a height of 15 centimeters above the last pruning mark or 5 centimeters below the previous year's tipping level. Normally, this is given just below the crow's feet formed by last year's plucking. It helps to remove congestion in the top hamper. Now, there is another type of skiff called light skiff. This is a skiff at or up to 1 centimeter above the previous tipping level, just deep enough to remove the majority of the plucking points and to leave the crow's feet. Light skiff is given to re-establish a level. Then we can refer to the level of skiffs. This is a skiff to remove the plucking points and old leaves that stick above the plucking table and at the end of the season. This cut is given at least 5 centimeters above the previous tipping level. It helps to tidy up the top of the bush. Then we cannot but refer to the process called unprune, which means that tea bushes are plucked continuously without any skiff, and this condition is designated as unprune. Choice of a skiff depends on a number of factors such as crop distribution, cost of plucking, availability of labor and quality of made tea. Drought, pest, disease susceptibility are the other important factors which also influence the choice. Dip skiff does not cause crop loss or reduce crop quality, but other forms of skiffs affect the quality of made tea adversely. Now, what is the time for skiffing? The time for skiffing in Northeast India, particularly, it usually falls between mid-December and January. The deeper is the skiff, the earlier is the skiffing time. So what are the different methods of pruning? For example, light pruning is carried out using a pruning knife that is not less than 450 gram in weight and 20 centimeters in length. Splitting of branches and uneven cut is harmful. A cut should be clean, sharp and slanting. The cut ends should face inwards. If the pruning is done with lighter knives, wood splitting may occur. Let us now look at the methods of pruning. First, we shall refer to light prune. Light pruning is carried out without a pruning knife that is not less than 450 gram in weight. Splitting of branches and uneven cut is harmful. The cut should be clean, sharp and slanting. The cut ends should face inwards. If the pruning is done with lighter knives, wood splitting may occur. At the time of light pruning, knife cleaning out should also be done. This operation involves the removal of the dead, diseased and crossing branches, dwarf bungee shoots and the snakes from the bushes. However, excessive cleaning should be avoided. Presence of bungee shoots on a pruned bush retards the growth of new shoots, resulting in the loss of second flush crop. Weak and crossing branches also tend to congest the center of the bush and decrease the yield. Thus, the judicious cleaning out maintains bush sanitation and increases its yield. Cleaning out should be done soon after pruning, and under no circumstances should it be delayed beyond the normal bud break time, which depends on weather and the vigor of the bush. The vigorous sections should be cleaned out first. Pruning should also be done in the cold weather, for example, between mid-November and mid-January in case of Northeast India. In non-droughty areas, pruning can commence as soon as the bushes go dormant in the winter, beginning from about the mid-November, and the operation should be completed by the third week of December. The droughty areas, pruning should not commence before the first or second week of December and should be completed by mid-January. When pruning is delayed beyond mid-January, there will be loss of crop depending on region and weather conditions. Then there is something called medium pruning. Medium pruning is a process generally done between 45 to 50 centimeter, followed by the removal of knots, diseased wood, etc., even from below the general pruning height. All large cuts should be treated with a protective bituminous paint like Indopaste within 24 hours of the pruning, preferably on the same day. To prevent the bushes from sun scorch, the branches may be lime washed and covered with the pruning litters immediately after the prune. Medium prune is best done from mid-December to end January. In drought-prone areas, medium pruning should preferably be done in January. Under no circumstances, this operation should be carried out before mid-November. However, if medium pruning is done at a time when stretch reserves are optimum, no additional benefit would be obtained by retaining the lungs in the year of prune or in the subsequent years. Lungs kept on the bush should be cut back after the new flush of shoots on the bushes has produced some leaves. So we also have to refer to pruning cycle. The interval of time between two successive prunes is called a pruning cycle. This cycle consists of a prune followed by lighter forms of cut or skiffing or unprune for 2 to 4 years until the bushes are pruned again. Substitution of annual pruning by longer pruning cycles through the introduction of skiff and or unprune in general increases the productivity of the bush. But if the cycle of pruning is lengthened beyond 4 years, some of the branches will become very thick, leading to a reduction in the number of pruning sticks. Generally, in plains, 2 to 4 years pruning cycles are followed. In hills, however, the cycle can be extended to 6 years. In longer pruning cycles, pruning should logically be done when the yield starts declining. However, this is not always possible due to a number of practical difficulties. Therefore, pruning of each section of tea in an estate has to be decided on merit. A pruning cycle of fixed duration for all sections is not conducive to crop maximization. Furthermore, agronomic management and economic considerations require from time to time variations in the length of pruning cycles of different sections of tea within an estate. So, we come to the end of this module. See you in the next module. Till then, bye.